You're listening to the TV Obsessive channel, presented by TVObcast.com. Okay, welcome back to the TV Obsessive podcast. Here today for episode 76. As always, my name is Cameron Crane, the executive editor for TVObsessive.com. Joined as always by Ryan Kirksey, writer and contributor for the site. How are you doing today, Ryan?
Doing great. Friday before Thanksgiving week. Weather I am is beautiful. Would it surprise you if I told you that our Christmas decorations have been up for 3 or 4 weeks already? Is that bad or is that normal? What's the what do you think?
I don't know. You tell me. Here's my question. Is that your decision?
Yes, it's a joint decision. I go along with it, yes.
Okay. I would, if I were to weigh in, still be of the mind that, after Thanksgiving, at least come on.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care if you want to decorate your house sooner or whatever, like everyone's free. That's totally fine. But you need to go to the store and stuff, I'm hearing Christmas music. And I'm like, is it Halloween yet? I think there's been a creep. When we were younger, I feel like,
Yeah, yeah.
and what else is creeping? It's Black Friday. Because I'm
Yes.
getting notifications this week and it's like, it's Black Friday already. I'm like, no, it isn't.
Black Friday starts the first Friday in November now,
Right.
basically.
It's like, shop our Black Friday deals. I'm like, you mean that made up shopping holiday that's a
Yep.
week away? Anyhow, I like Thanksgiving and the
Yes.
fact that it gets sort of overshadowed. I mean, I guess maybe we need more Thanksgiving music. Maybe that's the thing.
Yeah, yeah. I have seen in my
Um,
neighborhood a lot of outdoor Thanksgiving decorations this year, which is not something I had noticed before. But they've done the inflatables and
like
like
turkeys, or they got
like
pilgrims
yeah,
going.
turkeys and pilgrims and brown and orange and yellow lights as opposed to Christmas color lights. So that's becoming a thing now.
I mean, that's kind of next level because you have to imagine those
Yeah,
same people are like going to switch over to Christmas after Thanksgiving.
exactly, exactly.
Um, Maybe they've got like cool modern lights where you can just flip a switch to change their colors or something.
I have seen a house in our neighborhood that has that every holiday. So it was orange, purple, and green for Halloween. Now it's more Thanksgiving colors. Then they'll switch to Christmas over the weekend, I
But they're
think.
the same like lights. They're
Same
not taking
lights.
them
Yep.
down and putting them back. Yeah, because taking them
Yep.
down, putting them up, taking them down, putting them up. Like, what is this, a job? Um, Anyhow, so yeah, it's November 22nd, which is not Black Friday because yesterday was not Thanksgiving because that's not until next week. Very late this year, right? November 20th. We're going to talk about Silo, season 2, episode 2, in the latter part of the pod, and then even to work through that week to week. So hopefully you're watching the show and continue to join us for that. First, as per usual, kind of talk about what we've been watching and what's been in the news. And so it's been, I guess was this last Friday, the Tyson Jake Paul fight? Talk
Yeah,
about
this
that a
is
little bit.
the fight between Mike Tyson and Jake Paul, obviously the Netflix live sports event. This happened, I guess, about as far away from the publication of our last podcast or this podcast as it could possibly be. So this was last Friday night, November the 15th. I just happened to be after a high school football game out at a restaurant with a bunch of people, and every TV had the fight on.
Okay.
And my experience, it was interesting because my experience watching it at this restaurant was flawless. I mean, they had the 60-inch TVs. It was going on every one. The 10 o'clock fight or 10 o'clock Central fight didn't happen until 11:10 p.m. But that's neither here nor there. That's boxing. But I experienced zero issues in my time watching it, and then I get home and start checking out things on social media, and apparently there were all these issues with buffering and disconnecting and not being
Yeah.
able to watch it. And I just, it was odd because that was not my experience, but also the seemed to be the predominant experience. I don't know if you saw the same or sort of similar
Right. Yeah.
sentiment out
So I
there.
was going to say our experiences here could not be more opposite, including the fact that I didn't watch it.
Yeah.
Um, but I kind of thought about it, right? I mean, it feels like it's been a while since there's been a big boxing fight. And I know this is not that. This is more like a gimmicky kind of thing
Yeah.
almost, but it seemed like it was entering the cultural consciousness, and so I kind of thought about it. And I'm on Blue Sky, and I was almost surprised how many people on Blue Sky were talking about this fight. So it just seemed like everyone was watching it, and so I kind of thought, well, maybe I'll turn it on because at first people were watching the undercards or
Hmm.
whatever. I was like, hey, maybe I'll turn it on, and like everyone else, at least on Blue Sky, I was hoping to see Mike Tyson just like punch Jake Paul out in 30
Yeah,
seconds. And it seemed like that was the common theme. Like, hey, they're going to be part of
right.
this cultural moment. And then I started seeing like everyone complaining about buffering,
Yeah.
and people were starting to make jokes like, can I get this through the mail on DVD Netflix? Like, and I'm like, well, dude, I definitely don't care enough to put up with that.
Yeah.
That was my take on it. And um, then I saw the reactions that like apparently it wasn't a very good fight. And
No,
Jake
the
Paul
fight.
won. Did he win by decision?
Yes, they won
Oh, this
by
is the worst.
decision. Went the full 8 rounds. And it became clear in sometime in about round two, maybe early round three, that Mike Tyson was there to stand and back up and make $20 million. I mean, it was pretty miserable in terms of the quality of the fight. Again, not that I was expecting, Ollie Frazier or anything like that, but it just was pretty bad.
He should
But
have
yeah, it
bit
was
his
just
ear off. That's
odd.
what he should have done.
What's that?
Just bite his ear off. That's what he should have done.
Yeah, that was, I mean, something that would have given us
You know,
some kind of interest in this thing.
it's funny because you remember when we were younger, it was always like these things were pay-per-view events you had to pay like $100 for. And the only time I ever got involved in that, it wasn't that I bought it. It was like I was a senior in high school, I think.
Yeah,
And a friend was buying the pay-per-view. And so invited us all over to have this event where we're going to watch the pay-per-view of the boxing fight. And it was the Tyson Holyfield fight where he bit his ear
yeah,
off. So like the fight lasted for what, 5 minutes?
yeah.
It was like the biggest letdown, but also weirdly kind of cool that that's like the
Yes.
one boxing match I actually was watching live in my entire life.
Yes, and see that almost makes me a little bit jealous because that was obviously in a day and age where you couldn't just automatically see the clip on social media. So if you didn't see it, I don't think the ESPN and CNN, all these other places didn't have the rights to show footage, so they would show, pictures of what had
Yeah.
happened. But it's like if you missed it, it's like, man, you missed out on this unbelievable moment in history. So like that made me jealous that you actually got to see it because I just saw, pictures of his ear on the ground, and that's as far as I got.
Yeah, it's such a weird thing that that's the one that I saw. Like I literally never watched any other boxing pay-per-view ever.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Actually, I mean, it is pretty cool, and it was an interesting experience because we're all sitting there and we're like, "Wait, what? Did he?" And Ryan, they let him do it twice.
That's right.
The first time he did it, they didn't disqualify him. They didn't end the fight, and they're like, "Hey, all right,
Yeah.
Mike, what are you
Just,
doing? You nibbling on his
just,
ear, buddy? You can't,
just
you can't
stop.
do that.
Yeah.
That's not cool." And as they restart the fight, they just like chops part of his ear off, literally. You could see it. So anyway, it sounds like that was more entertaining than this.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Infinitely more entertaining. And maybe the only reason I bring it up is just to say, Netflix has made an investment in live sports. They had this fight, obviously, and they have coming on Christmas Day two pretty premier NFL games. I think currently four
Yeah,
playoff teams are playing each other. Four AFC playoff teams are playing each other on Christmas Day. Like I said, it wasn't my experience, but I will at home on wherever I am on Christmas Day be turning on because the Texans are playing. I certainly hope I don't have that experience. So they've got about 5 weeks here to get their stuff because NFL fans are not gonna they're not gonna go for that.
yeah. Hopefully they boost their servers or whatever. Or
Yeah,
well, from
whatever it
what you're
takes.
saying though, it also makes me wonder. Like, okay, well, does the bar pay for really high bandwidth, and is
Yeah.
is somehow that the issue? Hopefully they can figure that out though, because you're right. Christmas Day games, which I still have no idea if I'm going to be able to watch. I think I complained about this to you when they announced it.
Yep.
I
Yep.
know where I'll end up going on Christmas Day for Christmas dinner, but what I don't know if they have Netflix,
Right. Exactly.
and I'm not going to even ask before I go over there because that just feels weirdly impolite or something.
Yeah.
It's like not like I'm not going to come to Christmas if I can't watch the football, but we'll just have to find out. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
as you say, it does look like some pretty good games. So
Yeah, it should be. Well, new universe out there for live sports. Anyway, that's just what's been on my mind for the last week, and thought I'd bring it up. But we do have a lot of news to touch on, so maybe we should pivot to that. What caught your eye the most this week?
well, I mean, the biggest thing is Yellowjackets. I
Yes,
mean, I guess we
yes.
just jumped to start to Yellowjackets. As you put in our on our show sheet notes here, Yellowjackets exclamation point. Um,
Something finally.
Definitely excited about this. Still curious, like what happened to that secret episode? Because I really did think that Ashley Lyle had confirmed there was
Yep,
a secret episode. So we have to
yep.
keep our eyes peeled for the possibility that they're going to do something weird.
Not our skin peeled, but our eyes peeled for
You know, hopefully not our skin peeled.
the.
Hopefully not our ears either. But are they going to like surprise drop it or something
Yeah,
like that? We have to keep an eye out. Or maybe it doesn't exist. Or maybe they just like threw it into season three. Who knows? But it did
who
seem
knows?
kind of confirmed. One of the show runners on social media, at least, seemed to confirm. Anyway, we got a really brief teaser. We got a release date. Again, they're doing the thing where it's going to be available to stream on Friday and then on the linear network on Sunday. So the Friday
Yeah.
date is Valentine's Day.
When I think Valentine's Day, I think teenage cannibalism. I mean, they just go together.
There's a lot of love in the show, right?
That's right.
I
That's
mean,
right.
obviously, a lot of it may be sapphic. Um, Anyway, I'm a big fan of Yellow Jackets. We probably talked about this before. I was a little disappointed, perhaps, or by the way season two ended, or have some
Mhm.
worries. I'm really curious to see where it goes from here, and I hope that I feel as just directly into it as I certainly did through the entirety of season one and most of season two.
Yeah.
And I think I've digested the decisions that they made towards the end of season two by now.
Yeah. Your thoughts and mine have been aligned on this since season two ended. I'm very ready and anticipating enjoying this show again, and very eager to watch it. I mean, certainly in no way was I turned off enough that won't be watching this. Very excited. I mean, we're literally less than 3 months away now. Without going into any spoilers, there were some things confirmed about major characters not coming back and what finality was for them. We do know about two pretty major guest roles this coming season: Hilary Swank and Joel McHale, unknown
Mhm.
characters at this point. So all together, just combined with that news and this teaser and the date, yeah, pretty excited about it.
Yeah, I also saw a brief news item that Sarah Desjardins has been up to series regular.
Hmm.
So fans of Callie, you know,
Yeah,
got that to look forward to. I mean, that includes me. I don't know
yeah,
if it
yeah.
includes a lot of people. I've seen some people complaining about her character, but I guess the news there is that she's going to be in it more.
Yes,
Reading that
yes.
as you will. I mean, we have this little teaser. There's really nothing to read into about the teaser. There's no
No, there's not.
grounds for speculation. Um, but we'll probably get a full length trailer here down the road a
Yes.
bit, and then yeah, looking forward to it in February. My only gripe is that it is going to overlap with Severance.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, almost directly, right? Severance will be in the same week, if I remember our dates correctly.
No, I think Severance is something like January 17th.
Oh, that's right. That's
So
right. It'll
it'll have
come
been
out a few
going
weeks
for a
early.
few weeks, and then Yellow Jackets will start, which is opposite from how it went when both shows were in their first season. This also shows you how long it's taken for Severance season two to come out.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so I'm intending to write on both. Um, so looking forward to it. Other things that are coming, we've talked about before, Alien Earth. We got a teaser for that. Pretty much confirmation of the fact that it is going to be like a xenomorph on Earth, and it looks like it's going to predate the first film. I don't
Yeah.
know how I
So,
feel about any of that.
okay, thank you. I have a really big problem with this. I was prepared to say, oh, this is more sort of a corporate thriller and what happens when you design the plans to go try to extract this thing and bring it to Earth, whatever, right? And then we started getting teasers that showed the xenomorph, and so we're like, okay, well, how are they going to incorporate that? And now we learn that this is taking place before the movies, And I mean, I'm not reading anything that's not clearly laid out here in this piece that we'll link to.
Right.
There is an alien vessel that crash lands, and then there's an existential alien threat that they have to deal with. So I just, what would were the point of some of the aspects of the films then? If this is what happened, it's happening back on Earth. I just don't understand the continuity, I guess.
I mean, I guess the continuity has to be, if you recall in the first film, it became clear that the company was
Yes,
actively looking for
yes.
this xenomorph. So, I mean, I guess you could ask, well, like, how did they know about it? And this is to answer that question. I don't know.
Yeah, somebody somewhere online posted like the very specific, they are sort of laying out the chronological timeline of everything that's happened. And I was questioning, like, the time it would take for this ship to get to where it was going versus the time this show is going to happen. Is there enough time to discover this thing, prepare a mission, get a ship together, and make it? So it's just, I think you kind of talk yourself into circles if you start thinking too much about it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we'll see once the show is out, and I'm sure that others who aren't us will do the work. And we can just like
Yeah,
read
that's right.
read about it. But I am kind of to the point where I'm still excited for the show, but I'm kind of to the point where I'm excited for the show because it's Noah Hawley. And if
Yep,
it
yep.
weren't Noah Hawley, I'd be really worried. But I think he's proven himself with Fargo. He's proven himself with Legion. So I'm still really curious to see what he does in the Alien universe, even though I have some of those worries that are, about what exactly it seems to be, which wasn't what I expected. I thought it was going to be like on Earth, but
Yeah,
without
exactly.
the
Yeah.
aliens. Yeah.
My thoughts are the same. Noah Hawley says he expects that this could be, if they let it be, it could be a multi-season series that he could be the next 10 years of his life. I don't know that anything on streaming service is going to last that long, but he's got a long-term plan for this thing at least.
We'll see, because the other story in the background, this is not new news, but I recall reading months ago with regard to whether they'll make any more Fargo, that it seems like the deal there is, well, it depends on how the Alien show goes, and it
Yeah,
depends on whether Noah Hawley wants to make more Fargo.
right.
But I recall reading that item several months ago, where it almost sounded like, well, if the Alien show fails, he'll make more Fargo.
Yeah,
um, or if he wants to, or like if he can find the time, or
yeah.
whatever.
We
Otherwise,
we
maybe
we
he'll.
win either way with Noah Hawley, assuming one of them would be good. Yeah,
Yeah. Also, this is a renewal announcement for the show From. It's getting season 4. We've talked about this before. I started watching it a few months ago and was enjoying it, and I was going to try to catch up before season 3 came out, and I
yeah,
absolutely did not.
yeah.
Have you watched the show at all, Ryan?
I have not, but this is one of the ones we talked about that is firmly on the list, and this idea that the numbers MGM Plus has not released numbers on any of the show, but apparently they're growing. Apparently this show is popular. Apparently it's good enough to get a fourth season, so it's climbing the list of things that I think I want to check out.
I'm recommend checking it out. I'm not sure, 3 or 4 episodes or something like
Yeah,
that. That's it. That's as far as I made it. And I just didn't find time, and I got distracted by other things. It had nothing to do with the quality of the show. I was entertained, and I thought that I was going to try to power through it before the new season came out. Um, and then I guess also, once it became clear to me that I was not going to make that deadline, then it kind of fell back to the back burner.
yeah,
But yeah, what's his name? Harold Perrineau, the sort of the main
yes,
character here. Definitely some lost type vibes in a certain way, at least
yeah,
insofar as it's kind of like you don't really know what's going on, and you're not sure who in the story knows what's going on, and who knows what, and all of that kind of stuff. And then there's a horror element. So yeah, I'll have to get back to that. Maybe I can catch up by the time season 4 comes out. That'll be
yeah,
the new,
yeah. That now you have plenty of time now that you know there's a fourth one coming.
yeah, that'll be the new goal.
Yeah.
Um,
I put something on our list I wanted to just ask you about, which is I can't say I've never seen an episode of Yellowstone. I did watch most of the first season of Yellowstone. I've
okay.
never seen an episode of 1923. I've never seen an episode of Tulsa King. I did not watch the premiere of this new Taylor Sheridan show called Landman, starring Billy Bob Thornton. But I mean, his universe is just growing exponentially. How many Taylor Sheridan shows are we going to get? He also has the show called Lioness, which is about a female spy starring Thandie Newton. This guy is just running everything right now.
Yeah, and I haven't watched any of this stuff. And I don't know if it's because I'm a pretentious snob. Not ruling it out. I'm not claiming
Yeah.
that that's not why. Alternately, it might be also related to, as you mentioned, it seems like there's a whole bunch of stuff now, and I don't know how it relates to,
Yep. Yep.
I don't know how these shows relate to one another, or if they do, or to what extent, or I don't know what order to have to watch them in.
Yeah.
So maybe at some point I'll do some research. Landman, I don't know. This is one where I'll be perfectly honest, cards on the table. The title of the show did not at all like ping my radar as something to even look into, you know. And then I think I saw a commercial like while I was watching football or something. Like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is like, what's this show with Billy Bob Thornton and like John Hamm and stuff, know? It kind of looks pretty good. So I don't know, like maybe all of this stuff is entertaining, and at some point I should give it all
This
a
is
shot.
going to be your entree into the Sheridan verse, I guess.
Maybe do you have to start with Yellowstone? It's like literally, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't have any idea. There are millions and millions of people out there that are, would think that we are absolute morons for not understanding or knowing or liking these shows because, this show premiered to 5.2 million viewers on Paramount Plus. I didn't know if Paramount Plus had 5.2 million subscribers to it. I mean, his shows just get massive, massive numbers.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe we're snobs,
Yeah, that's what
but
it is.
not just us. Like I don't know, like TV critics as a whole, you don't see people
Yep,
writing articles about these shows. You
yep.
just don't see them getting that kind of press or like respect from TV critics.
Yep.
And maybe that's not fair. I'm willing to say that, but um, yeah, I just haven't seen them. Landman does look pretty good from the commercial though.
Yeah, I'll continue to monitor how these do, and at some point we're just gonna have to bite the bullet and check in on it.
I will note to people, I think we have one article on TVObcast.com about Yellowstone. We haven't ignored it completely.
Okay.
All right, there's one. I think it's just one. And then the last thing we're getting
Yeah, one thing
Simpsons return.
I wanted to ask about this. So, um, if you watch The Simpsons, and we know The Simpsons have been on for 35 years now, there are six primary voice actors on the show, and they voice the vast majority of the characters. And then there are a couple of other ancillary or supporting voice actors. And one of the most, I think one of the most prominent of those is Pamela Hayden, who's voiced Millhouse, dozens of other characters over the years. She is retiring now after she's been on the show since 1990. She was in the voice of Millhouse since the original Butterfinger commercial with Bart and Millhouse, back in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
And so this actually just sparked a conversation in my house about The Simpsons of when this is the first one of sort of the big names that's going to be retiring on this show, when one or several or all of the six primary voices for The Simpsons decide, okay, it's time. What do you think they'll do to that show?
I mean, is that how it's going to go?
I don't know.
Don't things ever end?
I was like,
You know?
literally, how what
Um,
other show has had someone attached to it for 35 years that has been as iconic as they have been with these voices? Hank Azaria, Harry Shearer, I mean,
yeah.
all of these guys. When one of those six or several of those six decide it's time to retire, I'm very curious what they decide to do with this show.
Right. Well, I mean, also because in the background, I'd have to actually look up details here, but there have been it hasn't been consistent in terms of the writers, right? Like I don't
Right.
think Matt
Very true.
Groening has been involved for a while.
Yes.
And so there's been kind of a rotating cast behind the scenes.
Yes.
Well, I guess the voice actors are also kind of behind the scenes in the in the
Yeah.
animated world. But
But since 1989, the same six have done these
yeah.
voices, and it made me think, wow, at some point they're just, I mean, physically or mentally or just emotionally not going to be able to do it anymore. And then what would happen then?
Yeah, well, I mean, what's interesting is look, the first thing that I'll say is I think at some point it'll just end.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
and it probably like arguably should. Like what's the point? But if they wanted to keep it going, you know, um part of what's interesting to me about your question is you could think about Rick and Morty, because Justin Roiland, of course, left or was kicked out, or however you want to put that. There's scandal.
Yeah.
But they just replaced him.
Yeah.
And it seems like for the most part, everyone said, yeah, this is fine.
Yeah.
You just find another voice actor. It sounds the same or it's close enough, you know.
I just found myself sort of fascinated by the question of, and maybe the closest analogy I could think is sort of, do they do what you're just saying, or do they Scooby Doo it, or just put somebody else in the voice, and we keep going, or they say this show has been so iconic with these people that it's going to, after 40 years or whatever, it's going. And yeah, I really have no idea.
Me neither. And you know what? Honestly, it'll probably come down to the ratings.
Yeah, yeah,
As opposed to anything else. Does the network want to keep making the show to an extent where they will get new voice actors and so on? They're continuing to make it at this point, though, so I guess we do need a new voice for Millhouse, unless they just
yes,
cut Millhouse out of the show. That's possible
yes,
too. These animated shows, there's so many ways they can deal with this stuff.
yeah, exactly.
You could imagine The Simpsons without Millhouse. It's not like it's Bart. But I mean,
Yeah,
you probably imagine The Simpsons without Bart potentially. That'd be very weird.
yeah.
Uh,
I mean, and they've all covered for each other over the years. You just, they've smoothed things out, and you haven't noticed because it's been so subtle. But yeah, there'll be some coverage on those types of things, I think.
if you go back to the very beginning, the animation looks way different. The feel of the show is way different. Very, man, it makes me feel old. I remember when The Simpsons was a sketch on the Tracy Ullman show.
That's
I
right.
remember
That's
being
right.
excited about it being spun off as its own show. And
Anyway, I don't know that we've ever talked about Simpsons on this podcast, and just want to use that as a moment to do so.
yeah, do you still watch it like regularly? Do you watch the new
No, I
episodes?
haven't
Me
watched it
neither.
regularly in 15 years, probably.
Yeah, me neither. So I'm not sure how good it is at this point or what, but clearly
Yeah.
some people are watching it. So yeah, be curious to see how that all goes. But all right, so let's segue here and we'll start talking about Silo.
Yeah.
Season 2, episode 2. It's called Order or The Order, one of those. Maybe it's Order on its own. Regardless, spoilers will be on the table here for everything in Silo through episode 2 of season 2. That would, of course, include what happens in season 1. And we'll pop in a little music here and be back in about 10 seconds.
Okay, we're back to talk about Silo Season 2, Episode 2, titled Order. This episode is written by Fred Golan, also as was Episode 1, directed by Michael Denner. And then Silo is taken from a series of short stories turned into books by Hugh Howey. In Episode 2, everyone in Silo is reacting to Juliet's decision not to clean and walk over the hill in their own very different ways. Bernard sees her enter the other silo through a video feed on her suit, and immediately it consults a book called The Order on what to do when someone does not clean. He enlists the help of, aka bribes, Judge Meadows to help support him in a message to the silo that he believes will calm the increasingly agitated citizens. Bernard claims the silo's suit technicians developed a new tape that helped keep Juliet alive for longer than usual, and that she died a hero for volunteering for this experiment and helping lead the silo into the next step of their future. In exchange for supporting and helping Bernard, Meadows tells him she wants her own good tape so that she can leave the silo. Meanwhile, the citizens of the Down Deep, mainly Juliet's colleagues and friends that are in mechanical, don't exactly buy what Bernard is selling. They want more information about what has happened to Juliet. They know that Walker and Juliet switched the tape. They believe she might be alive somewhere. Meanwhile, throughout the silo, graffiti starts popping up with the letters JL, which we have come to learn means Juliet lives. We've got talk about tape. We've got a book about a New World Order. We've got Wizard of Oz references. We've got a lot of places we can go here. Where should we start with episode 2?
I guess sort of maybe to start at the beginning, right? I mean, the opening scene, we'd all been wondering since the end of season 1 where Bernard was going. right? And what was in that room that he rushed into. And
Hmm.
we see it. And I don't know how much there is to see. I mean, you might have some notes about that. One of the big things that stood out to me, though, as you mentioned in your summary, it would seem that he is seeing what Juliet is seeing.
Yes.
That's how I read this, right? That
There's
there's, I
some
think
sort of
there's a,
video feed coming back to them from the suit.
yeah, that's how I read this. And that he's surprised by seeing all of these corpses, which he don't. I mean, he very much confirms later. I think when he's talking to Meadows, and it seems that he did not know
Yeah.
about this prior to seeing this. So I thought that was interesting, and then maybe there's some other stuff here as well.
Yeah, I did. So many different little pieces of this show make me think one thing or the other. Because, at one point, I think I was pretty convinced heading into this episode that, okay, the silos must talk, communicate, know what's happening with one another. They're in regular communication. Um, but unless that just completely broke down when there was an uprising in Silo, I think we're starting to learn that this was Silo 17 that Juliet entered. We're in Silo 18 as our primary one. That he is completely unaware, apparently, that this happened, that these bodies are all there, that is complete loss of life there. So, yeah, that did surprise me that he's unaware of that when I thought for sure, oh, these places must be sort of established order and established protocol and decorum. They're all communicating with one another. Now I'm just not so sure about that.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this really indicated that there isn't contact between the silos. The guy we met at the end of last week's episode seems to be in the same, how to put this, in the same room in the other silo, right?
Yeah.
Um, if that makes sense, right? So maybe he is the only one in there. I speculated last week that there might be other people behind
Hmm.
that door. Maybe it is just him. Regardless, there's a question of how he survives, but I
Yeah.
presume we'll get more information. We'll return to that plot line next week. Bernard has a book, as you mentioned, called The Order. It was not the Pact,
That's right.
Order. So presumably he's the only one who has access to this book.
Yeah, the pact is well known and well publicized amongst mayoral, judicial, the police, people who are quote unquote in charge. And the pact is a very familiar document or sort of Magna Carta, as it were. But this book called The Order seems to be something that is dedicated to one or a very small number of individuals and no one else knows about it. It's kind of the break glass protocols for, what to do when things go bad.
Yeah, this contains the real plan and why,
Yeah.
or how far does this go? Maybe it's not even the real plan, and there's some other level to this where but it's as close as we get to what seems to present the real plan. And one of the big things that I keep finding myself thinking about, and I want to say multiple things ultimately about this with regard to this episode, I think, why are they doing this? Why are they lying to people? Why
Yeah.
are they having people clean? Why does it matter if they don't clean? I mean, like all of these kind of hanging together, but the big ones, it's like, well, why aren't they just telling people the truth
Yep.
now that we know that it really is toxic outside and so on? Like, how does this all?
This has been stirring around in my brain ever since the end of season one, which is, oh my God, this huge reveal of actually it is toxic outside and there are more silos. Okay, I guess I can come to grips with that, but it's almost like this letdown of, okay, well then what's the point of trying to create this whole illusion of something that's not and just I just don't, yeah, unless there's some, we can get into maybe why there might be some sort of overarching entity or organization controlling this, but why else would they be lying to all these people?
Yeah, so let's follow this path a little bit. I want to talk about the tape.
Yeah.
Tape's very central in this episode in a couple of different ways.
Yes, it
Now, of
is.
course, we know that the tape, it was important that they replace the tape. So we're also pulling back in something from season one here. Okay. So I'm wondering, does this all make sense or can we make sense of it? And I don't just mean, of course, Bernard tells this cover story that
Hmm.
IT created the new. No, no, yeah, of course that's like kind of bullshit, right?
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
transparent. But what really happened was they replaced the tape that is usually used when people go out to clean with good tape. The tape that's usually used is shitty tape.
Yes.
Why? That's sort of my first question. Like, so they are purposefully, because someone like Bernard knows they were using bad tape
Yeah.
on purpose. Like that's
Yeah.
part of the plan. And it's
Yeah.
not because they don't have better tape, they do, and they're intentionally not using it,
Yeah.
right? So it seems like part of the plan there has to be related to um people who go out to clean dying before they can get out of that bunker, before they can make it over the hill, as I
Yeah.
generally put it.
That's yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
But then it was still kind of done. But then like, okay, well, why are they using tape at all? I mean, right? You see what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
why is
Yeah.
tape a part of? They've got the suit. And they've got to use tape. That's a
Well,
weird kind of thing to be thrown in here. And
I think that until Juliet's realization of this and switching of the tape, there was not much thought put into why they needed to do it because it just meant to say, oh, we've got to do this because it seals the suit. And clearly we know that the intention is that it does not seal the suit so that two things can happen. One, that they at least stay alive long enough to make it to the screen to clean it. And two, that they don't then after that make it long enough to get over the hill to see what's happening, right? They die before they get to that crest and can see what's out there. So I don't think until Juliet came along, there was any thought as to whether the tape is important or not. It was just a part of the suit because we want to seal you up.
see, this is what's bothering me because I'm thinking about this from Bernard's perspective, but it's not
Hmm.
even from Bernard's perspective. Maybe it's from the order's perspective. Like, why is this a part of the plan of whoever the powers that be are?
Yeah.
And well, it's not Bernard because it seemed like Bernard didn't even quite know this himself. I think Bernard
Mhm.
knew that they were using low quality tape,
Yeah.
but it's not. I don't know. Maybe he does know that if they use the good tape, then they'd be able to make it over the hill. And maybe that's why he says, I should have sent Juliet to the mines when she stole that tape in the first place. I mean, I
Yeah.
guess maybe he does know, but it's still kind of weird. Why are you doing it in this way? And as I've asked before, well, last week, we've only done one before this one in terms of the podcast. But why is it important that they clean? Because it seems like that's also
Yeah.
an aspect of the same kind of question.
Yeah. The cleaning almost seems to serve the authority of the silo in that it does look like in the first season a couple times that that thing really gets gunked up and covered up and it's almost like they want them to clean it so they see the reminder of A, our world has gone to crap, and two, look at the people who have died. This was a consequence for them. You don't want a part of it. You don't want to ask to go outside. So they do need things to be they do need that thing to be clean for a couple of different reasons. But yeah, that part makes more sense to me than the mechanics of why incorporate the suits to do it. Unless it's just, I mean, literally you come into contact with that air, you're gonna die immediately and you won't be able to
Right. So
clean.
that, but then like if say Bernard or whoever happens to be in charge in whatever era of the silo we're talking about, if that person in charge knows that if you use a high enough quality tape, you'd be able to go outside for a little while and make it back in.
Mhm.
Well, you could just send someone outside in a safe suit to clean the window and come back in. And when you want to execute someone, you just send them outside,
Yeah,
right? It's like, oh,
why
you're
put them in a
doubting
suit
that
at all?
outside is going to kill you? Go
Yeah,
check it out. And then it's just
yeah,
like they clearly die,
yeah.
right? So it's just like these weird complications to their plan. And realize that I don't.
You're right. They're making the suit and the cleaning mutually exclusive of one another, whereas there's no reason for it to be if they didn't want it to.
Yeah, and look, the thing part of what's bugging me right here is that I'm not sure if I am asking a question right now
Mhm.
that's an important question to be asking,
Yeah, yeah,
or if I'm asking a question that Silo ultimately is going to like wave its hands out. They're like, don't worry about that, Cameron. That's not. This is
yeah,
just how it works. Don't worry about that.
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know which way it's going to go. It seems like it could be central to unlocking the overall mystery, or it could be, well, hey, this is just how it works, except that part of the
Yeah.
structure, and that's not where the real questions lie. And I'm just
It,
really not sure.
yeah, and if I had to guess, you and I have not watched ahead. I've not read the books. I think my guess is they will spend more time talking about the what and the who as opposed to the why, right? Why things are done this way. It'll be more of the uncovering the central mystery of is there some grand plan here or organization or entity or individual who's in charge of all of this as opposed to the let's explain the chapter by chapter what's in the order and why we did it that way.
Yeah, it just makes me wonder to go in a direction that maybe the show is more likely to explore and tie things together a little bit. This question of, well, is there contact between the different silos?
Yeah.
It seems possible to me that at one point there was, and
Hmm.
there is no longer. That's
Hmm.
a live possibility. Um, was the were things maybe done one way at first and then changed because of the experience they had of the likelihood of rebellion and things like that that led to this plan with the pact and
Yeah.
kind of all the weird lying and all this
Mhm.
stuff, right? Like,
Yeah.
is there a reason that led to that where maybe that wasn't how things started? Because you can imagine they have the technology in the past. Maybe they've got all these silos. Maybe I mean, it could go between them and things like this. Maybe they're in complete contact. And I don't know. Maybe they realized that was a problem. I'm totally speculating, right?
Yeah.
But I have no. We just don't know, and we don't know why they have the silos
Yeah.
in the
I
first
think
place.
that
Really,
if we discover that some group or so that there is some all-powerful, omniscient group or something that created this, that designed this, that put this all into motion, and put it in a place that they sort of press go and everything just sort of started with this all of this. I can't see that they would have designed and implemented and put together all of these different plans and strategies. And part of that strategy was we have to let people go outside with a suit with defective tape. It almost seems like a haphazard thing that's been added on at some point for some reason. And yeah, we don't know if other silos have been implementing that or not. I guess maybe we'll learn that as we go along with Juliet.
right? Yeah. I mean, tying in some of the stuff about you can't have relics and like I feel like there are indications that the technology in the silo in the past was
Hmm.
better
Yeah,
and that they like intentionally made it worse
yeah,
for most people. But then in because like in Bernard's secret room, that seems like it's a bit more high tech or modern or
yeah.
something.
Did you? It's quick and he runs by it. Did you sort of pick up on the what looked like some sort of advanced technological servers or something that he's in a room with that looks nothing like the rest of the tech in the silo?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm not sure what we're seeing
Yeah,
exactly, but I
but it's
definitely got
something.
that
Yeah,
feeling. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, which is interesting. I had, as we're talking about this, I want to revisit something I was thinking about more in season one when I had been playing with the possibility that this was all some kind of social experiment or something, you
Yeah.
know, that
That thought's been in my mind too. Yeah.
yeah, I think some of the things you were just saying were reminding me of this hypothesis. And I kind of let that go once we found out at the end of season one that it really is toxic outside.
Hmm.
Because I'd been thinking over the course of season one, like, well, hey, maybe it's really perfectly fine outside. And
Yeah.
some group of human beings has decided to put another group of human beings in this silo and they're observing them. And, it's like a big kind of social experiment. I guess what I'm thinking now is, well, maybe I shouldn't totally rule out that kind of possibility, even still. Like maybe there is still in some way, some possibility that it will end up being something like that. We did also see at the end of season one, there's like a city on the horizon.
Yep. Yep. I also
So
don't rule out the possibility that this was the people living in the silo and the destruction or apocalyptic sense of what sort of world they're living in was both, I mean, it was both planned or put together by the same group, right? We're going to, our world is in need of purging or whatever, and so we're going to do it and keep enough people alive, and this is the way that we're going to make it happen. And it's less of an experiment, more of what they thought of as a necessity. Um, and this is just what we have to go through to make things better here. I have no idea. That's just complete speculation as well.
yeah, we don't know.
Yeah,
And that city is like, but it was there. It has to mean something. That has to
yeah,
mean something,
yeah. I
you
agree.
know. But there is a chance that it's just like an abandoned city, right? Like
Yeah,
we just don't know.
yeah,
Um, I did want to mention the Wizard of Oz reference. Um, I don't know what to do with that, but I do think it's interesting. Um, Given the structure of things that we've seen in the silo, if you think about the Wizard of Oz, you
hmm
recall there's a great and all powerful Wizard of Oz who actually is just a man behind the curtain. Um, maybe it's just kind of a wink or a thematic nod or something like that, but I don't know. I don't know if there's anything to read into this. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. I guess I kind of thought the same thing that Meadows and Bernard are um, seem to be the only two people who have access to certain things, or information about certain things. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think books are allowed in the general population of the silo. I don't
Mm,
recall that, but she's got obviously several books. She's got several relics. You saw her centerpiece of her table was an Etch-a-Sketch. I don't know if you saw that, but it's
yeah,
like
that was cool.
she's allowed things that other people aren't. Bernard has access to things so they are the wizards behind the curtain. They seem to be sort of bumbling through a lot of this and just sort of planning it as they go and having to consult a higher power or a higher authority when they make certain decisions. So yeah, if someone were to, aka Juliet, pull back the curtain and expose that, then what good is their authority anymore? I think it was just a wink and a nod to that. At least that's the impression I got.
Yeah, I mean, I guess just part of me is also wondering, is that is that kind of the end of the power structure?
Yeah.
It certainly does seem like, okay, Bernard is the most powerful person in the silo. All the stuff with Meadows is really interesting, and we should probably talk about that a bit more. But for one thing, we learn in this episode that at one point she was Bernard's shadow,
Yes.
and
Yes.
something happened. They had whatever kind of falling out. Um, so she knows maybe as much as Bernard knows, or maybe a little less than Bernard knows, but
Yeah.
like it would seem that she's sort of the closest to having Bernard's level of knowledge. Then we have to wonder, well, what
Yes.
happened between them, but also what led her to kind of retreat and just be a drunk for 25 years
Yeah.
that now
Uh,
she's shaken out of because of what's happened.
I think that, okay, my take on that was some point 20, 25 years ago, she was exposed to the truth or the knowledge or the information that only she and Bernard have as a shadow. She couldn't handle that, so she becomes a drunk to deal with it. Now she decided and instantaneously, because she has seen someone get away, that that's something it's time to push this aside. I don't want this anymore. I don't care what it takes. I want the good tape and I want to go out.
Yeah, I think that's right. Or I think I
Yeah.
was reading it in the same way, but that's still interesting to me because what 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 could she have learned
Mm.
that would have that effect? Because I mean,
Yeah.
this is one of the things going back to the beginning of what I said. Why are they lying? The difference between the truth and what they're telling people seems minimal or almost non-existent in a certain way. The truth is you can't go outside. The air will kill you.
Yeah.
That's true.
That is
So
true.
yeah, they're they clearly know something that the people at large don't. Maybe, it's something about that history, or what have you. One big possibility that's been on my mind for a long time is that I forget how long they say they've been in the silo, but it's like a really long time. And they
Okay.
say that the rebellion happened like 140 years ago. Um, what if that's false? What if they've only been in the silo for like, this is the first generation or something, but they want to make everyone think, hey, your ancestors have been doing this for a really long time. You can do it too, buddy, or maybe
Yeah.
it's something like that. And that the truth that Meadows discovers is this, that the timeline is different, and actually you're at the beginning of it,
Yeah. They've
and
referenced the
something like
timeline a
that.
lot in this and I guess the episodes, particularly in the first season and when the rebellion happened. I don't think you make those references without having to go back to it and say there's something there that we're lying about as well. No one has any knowledge of it. No one has seen the relics. No one has access to the information. Um, and so, yeah, part of me thinks the knowledge of what would lead Meadows to become a drunk is that there's some horrendous experience or event that put them there, and they don't, they were put there against their will, or they were something happened to them that they caused these people to be here. That yeah, they can't go outside, but it's the result of something that happened that forced them to do that, as opposed to natural events or something occurred that was outside our control. It wasn't just that Skynet, got smart and took over. It was we made something happen. What would lead someone to become a drunk like that? Maybe something along those lines.
Where Earth has been invaded by aliens who poisoned the atmosphere on
Yeah.
purpose. you know I mean, all sorts of things are possible, or maybe she learned that people are never ever ever going to be able to leave the silo
Yeah, that's
ever.
true. That's true.
It feels like there has to be some hidden truth that,
Yeah.
I presume we'll find out. And it's really, I love the fact that we're getting the indication that Meadows knows things that Bernard knows, and that gives an entry point into answering some of these questions. Whereas I guess I thought maybe it would be by Sims becoming Bernard's shadow.
Hmm.
I guess that might still happen, but it kind of seems like it won't.
Yeah, it does not at all to me, at least based on the conversations we got in this episode.
Bernard doesn't trust him enough,
No, it does not.
which maybe is fair because it kind of feels like Sims has some kind of secret plan thing in those scenes with his
Yeah.
wife.
Yes.
I don't know what it is, but
Yeah.
um, one other thing about the tape. Let's go in this direction of the boiling possibility of rebellion.
Yeah.
I don't know if this makes sense either. I mean that okay, so you have the feeling if you're Shirley, right? That's the right character here, right?
Yep.
That Bernard's lying, right?
Hmm.
But then we know, and the people in mechanical know, I'm actually not positive if Walker's told Shirley at this point, if Shirley knows for sure. They switch the tape.
Yeah.
Regardless, so um how to put this? Um wouldn't wouldn't the stuff about the tape actually, if you think it through, confirm the idea that it actually is toxic outside?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like that
I don't
we
think that's
know
a question. That's a question for them now that it's toxic outside. Yeah.
it
At
doesn't
least for
feel
that
like
group of
they're
people. But that group
yeah.
of people also understands that it's not just this dangerous experimental thing that, oh, maybe we'll survive. We go outside. Actually, no, we can't because Juliet died, even though she made it farther than anyone else. They have a sense of, we know what the issue was. We know why you couldn't go outside. We have made it such that you can. And so we want to go find out and explore what Juliet has been able to. I think everybody else in Silo is at least initially buying into the idea of,
Hmm.
well, we tried. It's better than it was before. We're taking the right steps, but still, she died. She died a hero because, she was the next step in the evolution of helping us get out of here. The people in mechanical don't believe that at all. They believe they can, at least the people in this little band of revelers here, that they can get out.
Right, but so then their rebellion would not be like the one that we saw at the beginning of episode one, where it wouldn't be them naively marching out with,
Yeah,
bare skin, but
right.
that they'll have figured out that it was a matter of Juliet having good tape and hey, we can go out and, see if she's still alive, see what she saw, see what it's like out there.
Yeah. Their
And then,
rebellion
oh,
almost has to happen in the shadows and has to happen. There's, I assume, not an unlimited amount of this heat tape that's so good. So, they have to use that sparingly unless they can create more. I have no idea.
that's fair. How do they make the tape?
Yeah.
Is there a tape maker?
Yeah.
I don't know why the tape just feels like a weird. It's so weirdly low tech and high tech at the same time. If you think about
Right.
tape,
Right.
I mean, it's like the kind of uh I don't know what term to use, but the certain tendency to be like, well, I'll just fix it with duct tape. It's
Yeah.
like, Dad, you should really use a screw. I've got duct tape. But at the same time, if you think about making tape,
Yeah.
that is,
Yeah.
so yeah, do they make tape somewhere? We know that they make other things. Um, Before I go there, let me say one thing I was just thinking of, if I can pull it back to the top of my mind. Yeah, okay. So if this does boil up into a rebellion in Silo Prime or number 18, if it's number 18, that then our friends in mechanical know it's a question about having good enough tape, can make the inference that it is actually toxic outside, but are potentially also still mad about the way in which judicial and IT and all of them have been lying to people and controlling things and not telling them the truth.
Yeah.
So the point of the rebellion potentially would be to change the power structure or find out what the
Yeah.
actual truth of things is, but not to march out of the silo and all that.
Right. It would have to be to take over and democratize the silo in some way, as opposed to let one person or one group control it. Yeah.
Which is interesting. Which is interesting. Yeah. Yeah, we have Knox. He goes to, I don't know, blacksmith or something. I don't
Yeah.
know,
Sort of like
whoever that guy's.
some kind of creator, maker, their version of a makerspace. Yeah.
And so he says he has two asks. The first is to not make people weapons if people come
Hmm.
around. And we don't get the second one, I believe.
Yeah. I was very curious about that. I mean, I think this is the first we've seen of this blacksmith or this engineer or this designer, whatever it is that he does. Clearly
I
he
think
has
so. Yeah, I didn't recognize it.
yeah, he has the ability to make things of a lot of different shapes, forms, and fashions, and some of the things could be weapons. Makes sense that they don't want to, start a rebellion unnecessarily with these weapons. But yeah, just I can't even speculate what the other one would be unless it's he's secretly putting into motion, which I don't even, this guy couldn't do that. I was thinking about the conversation they had about we can shut down the silo one time.
Hmm.
We can shut it down and, then they'll throw us all in jail or kill us or whatever. But that doesn't seem like to be this guy's job. So I'm not sure what he's asking him there.
Me neither. It's one of those things where like it just kind of cuts and goes to another scene, right?
Yeah.
Um, so that's a lingering question. Then we get the graffiti. People are putting JL on banisters and not banisters,
Yeah.
columns, whatever, I guess it stands for Juliet Lives. I don't know that they tell us that in the show, but I guess that's
Yeah,
the
one
inference.
one person in the show speculates at that. And I think the thing I found interesting about the graffiti was I guess it makes sense if, mechanical, those folks started doing it in the down deep. But the first time we see it is up top where Bernard is, where Sims is, where Meadows is. And so who at that level is presumably doing that and starting it? That seems to be the first place where we witness it. So is there some group of people that's trying to start some kind of uprising at that level? That's sort of the upper crust, as it were, up there. And so who is doing it up there? I don't think that we know yet.
Right. Or is it just random people? Is it just an indication that,
Yeah.
well, hey, everyone was gathered, everyone saw her go over the hill without dying. And so now, of course, there are people who are saying she's alive.
Yeah.
And, so I don't know, maybe it doesn't matter exactly who. We'll see. I mean, I'm suggesting maybe there's no real organization behind it.
Yeah. There may not be. Yeah. Yeah.
A thing that's happening. So really curious to see where this goes. My expectation is episode 3 is going to take us back to the other silo where Juliet is, and might spend the whole hour there.
Yeah.
And
My
we'll have to see how the structure
episode,
shapes up in this season.
yeah, the title of episode 3 has been released. It is called Solo. And so I can only imagine that we are back with Juliet for that episode for a title like that.
Yeah, and I think I think that's Steve Zahn's character's name.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've encountered that. Like I don't think that's a spoiler. I think they call him Solo, not Han.
That's everywhere. Yeah, yeah.
No relation.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I bet you're right. I bet you're right.
So yeah. But I mean that's cool. We have to wait week to week. I don't mind the structure of going back to forth. I would expect usually when you get that kind of structure by the end of the season, the two come together. But
Yeah, I would have to.
given the structure of season 1, that might be in the very last episode of season 2.
Yeah.
We'll see. Regardless, I've been enjoying it. You wanted to say something about Billings and Lucas Kyle.
Well, just in hope that, and it may not be till episode 4 now, we got Sheriff Billings taking a statement. That was all we got of him in this episode. We saw none of Lucas Kyle. Has he been sent to the mines for 10 years like Bernard threatened? Just love to see more of them and know what's going on here, and are they involved at all in either side, whether the support or in rebellion of what Bernard is doing, and just interested in hope we see more of them.
And I don't think we've seen the mines.
No, we have
We've been
not.
told there are mines.
Yeah.
And being sent there is like bad punishment.
Yeah.
So I do hope Lucas would be our entry point into the mines. So I do hope for that. Billings is a really interesting character. He seems maybe more torn than anyone else who remains in our original silo.
Yeah.
He did find that Georgia tour book or whatever last season.
Yes.
Which makes me think that city is Atlanta. I have no idea if you could. Has anyone done that? Has anyone closely examined that skyline and tried to match it up?
Oh, good question. I've not seen anything like that, but that would be an interesting analysis.
I don't know how much it matters, but yeah, I'd be all for it if someone did that. Clearly, I have not put the time and effort myself to try to figure out what city that is. I just jumped to Georgia, probably Atlanta. Fine, let's move forward. Yeah, so I think that about covers it. Anything else you want to hit on before we wrap up here today?
I'm good. Nope. We'll presumably go to Juliet next time, and yeah, we'll keep flipping back and forth at least for a little while.
All right. So thanks as always for listening to the podcast. If you enjoyed it, please do leave a good rating, review, all that kind of good stuff. If you're listening to this part on the YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, press the thumbs up. Look for TV Obsessive on social media. Check out TVObcessive.com. Ryan is writing recaps of each episode of Silo this season. In addition to our podcast work here, I wrote on each episode of season 1 if you want to revisit any of those. And of course, there's all kinds of other stuff on TVObsessive.com that I hope you might check out. And we'll be back next week for Silo Season 2, Episode 3.
All right. See you for Black Friday.
All right.